Next Steps podcast. We hope that you enjoyed our first one. Today we are doing our first interview testimony style podcast today, and so I'm here with Josh and also with Mr. Anthony Mikowski. And so we're just going to have a conversation with him today and for your edification as well. So Josh, start us off.
So Anthony, give us a little bit of your background. Like, where are you, are you from Springfield? Are you, maybe what you do for fun, whatever. Like, just kind of let the audience get to know you a little bit.
Well, I came from Lexington. Me and my dad came down here in the 90s, and we used to hunt, and we loved it so much, we figured we'd move down here. So in early 2000, came from Lexington, moved here, started high school here, and started my life here.
Okay, all right.
So what was Lexington like? Because I think, I know a little bit of it. So just what did you do? Where did y'all live in Lexington? What did you do?
We lived in Clemens Heights. And went to Beaumont Middle School. My sister went to Dunbar High School. We love Springfield.
Yeah, I know that part of Lexington is fun sometimes, and but I know that also in Lexington you went to military school.
I did.
And how was that?
It was fun. It was an experience. I learned some things. It might have not been the right things, but learned some things and moved on.
So coming to Springfield, that was, you said, early 2000s, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So what was life like in your early years of Springfield, getting adjusted and all that?
It was a big adjustment. You come from a place where status matters. What you wear is, ranks up on your status. What brand you wear, who you hang out with, and who your parents are, and come down here and started going to high school, and it was a culture shock. It was definitely a culture shock. But you learn that down here, you learned that it's your reputation. It's who you hang out with, or how you treat people, and it really mattered how you treat people, and not really how much money your family has or what kind of clothes you wear. And, so that was a big lesson.
Well, I'm pretty proud of my clothes. Bigfoot shirt.
I like it.
Yeah, we got a couple of Bigfoot. Well, my son's a Bigfoot fan too. I'm by proxy a Bigfoot fan, I guess. But so you moved here, and then you you started high school here, right? Mm-hmm. So middle school, elementary was all in the military school, you said, right?
Yeah. Well,
and so high school life. You graduated high school here in Washington County.
Yeah.
Right. And then what happens from there?
Well, I bounced around for a bunch of different jobs because I had no clue what I wanted to do in life.
Oh.
And I did everything. I did roofing to making barrels to working at Amazon to delivering produce for my dad. Bunch of construction and factories.
Yeah.
Till I figured.
What would you say was the worst job you did?
Barrels by far. Barrels was horrible at that time. It was hot.
Oh.
And it was a lot of work.
Right, yeah. So we kind of get to present day. Like now you're HVAC, right? And I can't say enough about just what you've done for us, for our family. I definitely want to make sure I've said that to you, but I still want to acknowledge it too. Coming to the house and helping out when you can with our HVAC stuff. And so, we have the context for that, like that background, right? So like when and where did you meet the Lord? Like how, let's talk about the testimony
Well,
real quick.
I started dating my wife Danielle, and we never went to church for first couple of year or so, and her stepdad Jim Milburn, he started, him and his wife Donna, they started going to church, and they invited us for a hayride, and from that hayride we never left church.
Yeah.
It was good. She did have to bring me kicking and screaming a lot of times.
Yeah.
It wasn't my first choice.
Right.
I would have rather slept in on a Sunday. I did not know the Lord.
Right.
But I did feel the love of everybody who did know the Lord, and that meant a lot. I had some good people that really sat down and explained things to me and helped me along and suggested books and whatnot for me to read, and I was interested. I wanted to know. I ended up reading a book, Case for Christ.
Oh yeah.
And man, it was a good book, and it threw some things out there that really smacked me in the face.
Yeah. So did you, like, when you read that, like, did you read that because you had doubts
Oh,
about
yeah,
like the validity, I guess, of
Yeah.
Jesus? And
Yeah, I love to see something before I believe it's real.
Sure.
And it was so hard for me to, believe in God
Yeah.
without, physically seeing Him. And I came to the conclusion that there's been so many people in this world that have died believing in God and died for their belief in God, and that really stuck out to me. That what would you hang on to, your last moments in life, and thousands and thousands of people have died hanging on to the fact that God is real, and that's why they died. And I was like, man, if they really believe it that much, there's really got to be something to it.
Yeah.
So what would you say was so when you're beginning to investigate this whole journey, what would you say, so before you came to know Christ, because like a lot of issues or conversations I've had with people lately is a lot of young men or men that I've had conversations with, they feel like the church, that whole thing, kicking and screaming, they don't want to go, they don't want to be associated with it. I think there's a perception that the church is for their wives and kids, not for me. And so what would you say was your biggest hang up at first that really threw you of like, I don't want any part of that, like I don't want to be there?
Well, I like to stay out late at night.
Yeah.
And which required a lot of sleep the next day.
Yeah.
And that was a big hang up.
Okay.
Big hang up being, if it wasn't in my interest, then why do I have to go?
Yeah.
And
What got you past that though? Then so what was it? Reading that book? What got you past like, okay, I'm now curious. I'm now we would use the term seeking and trying to understand. What got you from, all right, I want this life. I want this perspective. I don't want to go to now of, all right, I need to investigate this. I need to see what that really is.
Well, what got me past that is, I would come to find out the more I went to church with my wife, the more we spent time together at church. We had a great relationship going on. We got along amazing.
Yeah.
And it was addicting in a way,
Oh, yeah.
because
Yeah.
you go from wild times to having such a settled down, good relationship, and it was good because of the Lord. Now I realize that.
Yeah.
So that really brought me in.
Well, I would say that, yeah, because for any of those who are listening, watching that are, especially, my hope is that we can reach some of those dudes and guys that are, wrestling with being a dad, being a husband, but at the same time, really seeing the church from a lens of that has nothing to do with me. That really won't affect me. To seeing, like it will affect your marriage. It will affect the way you raise your kids. It will affect the way you do work. It'll affect everything that you do in a different light because it's going to give you a completely different perspective on the way you do things. And it's not a feminine thing as far as like, because I know there's a lot of the guys. It's more. It changes the way you view yourself. And will change the way you look at those things in a much more healthier manner for those things. And so, how would you say that? So, you came to church, you read the Lee Strobel book, it began to shape you, change you. At what point did you say, I'm all in, I surrender, I'm all in?
Right before I got married, we started doing marriage counseling. And that one-on-one time, it was what I needed. And I could ask the dumb questions that I didn't want to ask in front of other people, and I could get talked to the way I needed to get talked to understand. So, the guy I worked for, Wesley, he really pushed me too. We would have good conversations. He'd always ask, what'd you learn in church? Which really made me pay attention. Or what was this sermon about?
He knew he was going to ask.
Oh, yeah. So,
you were kind of...
Yeah. And I remember there's some events that, I was like, oh, please, ask me to work. Don't let me off. And he's, no, you really need to go. And he pushed me a lot too. But, actually doing daily reading helped a ton. I learned a lot of questions to ask. I learned a lot of stuff. It was, yeah.
Interesting. So talk about now, I think it'd be a good time now to talk about so how have you seen yourself sort of, you come to Christ, right? And you're walking with the Lord. Talk about what that's been like for you over, how have you grown, anything you feel pertinent to that, whatever that may be.
Well, it's been an adventure. I mean, I wish I could say it was like hopping on a sled and going downhill, and easy as can be. I've learned a lot of things. Things like praying for patience, and the Lord showing you, hey, putting you in these situations where you have to learn patience.
That's the most dangerous prayer. Patience.
Yeah. And so it's been good.
Yeah.
What would you say is your greatest struggle in this walk now? Because I would say
the greatest struggle is a lot is man, I've talked to both of you all about this before, is denying myself.
Oh yeah.
It almost gets emotional because it's so strong on me. In the past couple years, we did a good friend of mine, me and their family, we used to do the 21-day fast beginning of the year. So beginning of the year, fruits and vegetables and water.
Daniel fast, baby.
It was horrible.
We got that coming up, so just a few months. Be ready.
So we would pray on, what's going to come this year? What are you wanting me to do in my life, Lord? What?
Yeah.
And man, I came to the conclusion. Well, it come to me. It was just deny yourself, and that was. I think of it every single day, and I think the biggest struggle is taking that and going with it.
Yeah.
Because every single day is so easy to hit the snooze button and say, tomorrow, You know, I'll deny myself tomorrow. And that you know, that goes with every aspect of your life. It goes with deny this and pick up this and and you know, every part of your life would be so much better if you just deny yourself. Your health will be good. Your family life will be good. Your kids will have attention. Your wife will have attention. You know, your friends, everything. And but yeah, that's been a big part of my life here.
Yeah, I would say that, you know, for me, like I think that's a trial for all of us, is that complete deny yourself. And then, you know, if you're staying in the Word and in the truth, we talked about this our last time, being in the Word, allowing it to transform you, allowing it to convict you, allowing it to draw those things out. If you're not in the Word, if you're not setting that as a priority, it actually becomes easier to not deny yourself, to just indulge in those things, because it's just like, well, I'll put that off, I'll do this. And I would say, denying yourself, that Luke 9, you know, if anyone were to come after me, he must deny him, take up his cross daily and deny himself. You know, we forget we got to take up our cross first. We got to kill that old self. And that is...
And, you know, I think about my life. It goes in waves. Everything goes in waves. I get so interested and start doing the right thing and wake up, prayer and reading, and it's great. And things do go good. And then they go so good that then I start dropping off. And I think about the Old Testament. And, you know, how just picking out them going through the desert. And they went through the desert and they go in their highs and lows. They're following, they're so happy and everything's going good, and then they take advantage of it and they forget.
Absolutely.
And I guess one of the big ways to not forget is, you know, make it your routine.
And think about the book of Judges, cycles. That's all Judges is.
Oh, yeah.
It's, they walk away from the Lord, God sends a judge, they go back to the Lord, they're blessed, and then they're doing it again, walking away, and that's
all
our lives.
That's all of us.
Yeah.
Nobody's above it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, you like when you say that, it's funny how we all sort of deal with something like that, and the difference is the way we describe it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like when you say deny yourself, I'm over here thinking about I think about the flesh, and I think about how my flesh wants. I have certain habit patterns. Some are good, some are not.
Yeah.
Right. And I go back to Romans 6, and I'm like, well, the old self is crucified, right? It's no longer I who live, going to Galatians, right? And so I'm in that. I get into that cycle too, right? Where I'm like, man, I know that, I know some truth. The question is, where's the missing link between that and applying it? In terms of, the denial piece. It's like, I know what righteousness is in the sense of what Scripture talks about and pursuing that that holiness. And it's like, how do I make that a consistent part of my life, right? And it always goes back to me. It goes back to reading, saying in the Word, prayer, and even this is the journal that I use right now, and it's like, sometimes I have to go in and actually reflect on, okay, I failed today in these areas. Why? What was the moment where I went, okay, I'm going to do this instead of not do this, right? You know what I'm saying? And so, that definitely resonates with me too.
It makes me think about denying myself. I'm going to do what this says, and this says to lead my family, and if I deny my selfishness of wanting to do what Anthony wants to do, then I'm gonna spend more time with my kids and my wife, but in a way that I'm teaching them,
Right.
That's what I have in my head as a perfect family.
Yeah.
Is, being able to pray with my wife, study with my wife, and study with my kids.
Yeah.
And that all comes with denying yourself.
Yeah, for sure. So, do you have anything else to add to that or anything?
No, I just think about, what I keep coming back to what we talked about that last podcast of the things that we do as far as in the Word, of studying the Word, prayer and meditation, and allowing them to transform us, how it all comes back. It's all cycling through that, man, your time in the Word really matters. Like your study of the Word, allowing it to transform you, I think we don't realize the impact it makes on our families, the impact it makes on our work life and all those things. And, we always want to challenge people with this of your next steps. And so I would think of, you're denying yourself of those fleshly desires is so that you can get into this. Mm-hmm. And so, how can we make sure that we set up those habits? And we talked about it last week. That's why community matters so much. Yeah. That's why it matters having that church community, that small group community, that even smaller, I hate calling them accountability partners, but that's what it is. Those folks that can speak truth into your life. Mm-hmm. Those people that can say to you, "Hey, man, what are you doing? Like, what's going on? Like, are you struggling with something? Like something going on?" And at the same time, that you can go to those people and be like, "Dude, I am really wrestling with this right now. Like, I'm struggling with this." And so, if you don't have those individuals,
if you don't have those individuals, you can get away with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we talked about that yesterday.
All that.
The last podcast.
Yeah, the last podcast.
We talked about it the other, how it's so, it's so dangerous to do the walk alone because, the saying I said last time was, you want to run fast, run alone, but you want to run far, run with someone else. If you are by yourself, yeah, you can feel like you're really making headway. You're really doing great. You're in the Word. You're studying. You're doing these things. But, there's no one there to keep you, encouraging you. Because then when you make so much headway, you can feel like you get to a point to where you got something that comes up. Say it's a medical emergency. It's a family issue. And it's like, well, I'll do this tomorrow. Well, tomorrow quickly becomes next week. And next week quickly becomes...
It's so easy.
Yeah.
Very easy.
And I think, too, sort of something I try to, I guess for lack of a better phrase, live by, right? I heard it a long time ago, and it was very beneficial to us in our move here, too, was, enjoy Jesus and walk on, right? Mm-hmm. And so, one thing, as I reflect on that and think about that in my own life, right? It's like I can enjoy the presence of Jesus, right? But the other side of that is in success and failure, keep walking. Mm-hmm. Because we oftentimes we talk about failure and we talk about, will failure derail me? Well, sometimes in my life, success derails me.
Exactly.
Because I'm like, I did it. I'm high, right? Yeah. I did it. And it's like I didn't focus on what should have been focused on to begin with. So instead of it being like, oh, this thing happened and I failed, it's, okay, I succeeded, mm-hmm. and I'm sort of living in myself here.
I did this all by myself.
And I'm not walking on in that way too. So the derailment can happen in the highs, and it can happen in the mountain, and it can happen in the valley, right? And so, so as I think about really focusing on those two things, it's just walk on. And, we talked about that sort of mentality of it can't be a thing where you do it alone. That's not to say that occasionally there won't be that season where it happens that way, right? When we moved here, we were focused on school and establishing ourselves a little bit in, our jobs and building those relationships and whatnot. But it wasn't until I started coming here that I really had what I felt like was a solid group of men. Mm-hmm. And I told my wife, I said, when she moved here, she had a Bible study group instantly, right? But amongst men, I didn't have that. Mm-hmm. And so, I told her, I said, this isn't permanent. I know it's not permanent. But the Lord used that time teach me to walk on, right?
Yeah.
To teach me that you just keep walking with me. This, like, it's gonna come, it's gonna happen, right? And I just sort of allowed that to happen. That wasn't.
Yeah.
That's not to say that I didn't struggle with the fact, like, there'd be times where Taylor and I would have conversations, and I'd be like, man, I just really wish I had,
Yeah.
like, I wish I had 2 or 3 men that I could go, work out with, or go study some scripture with, or go, like, just kind of live life with,
Yeah. Yeah.
And
We had that too, because we moved, when we left, so I was a pastor in Florida, in a church in Florida, and we had a really strong, well, it was a large staff church, and a lot of us were all the same age, same life stage, and we were all constantly together. I mean, it wasn't just an outside work setting, like, we were working 40, 50 hours a week together, and then also outside work together, and so I had that strong friend group. We moved back to Kentucky, and just all kinds of stuff happened. And then, I become lead pastor, senior pastor here at this church. First few years, like, just trying to find things, and we never really developed friendships and struggles. And then COVID hit, and dude, you just talk about just depressing, struggling, lonely and it wasn't just a year season. I mean, we're pushing half a decade at that point of loneliness, and it wasn't until about 2021, 22 that we began to build those relationships now, to where it's like, okay, I'm back into that. I have healthy friendships, healthy relationships, and it's that community. Man, when you get community, you think you're going far alone, and you begin to get that community of people help them walk, and and that community has also helped our church. I mean, you look at Springfield Baptist and what God has done in our church the past 2-3 years, and you see how people, I mean, think about our church now. Like, we've had marriages that have been just radically changed because of,
Yeah.
honestly, because, yes, mainly it's the gospel. The gospel is changing all this, but it's flowing through community. Community is changing lives at our church, and, we want to see that flourish.
Yeah, and I think, like I said, that season of life really helped me focus, and it really helped me, because I think sometimes it's easy to sort of, the old thing is, like, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. I don't know if y'all have heard that before,
No.
but it's kind of like an old, I heard it whenever I was a salesman. Right, and so it's like,
These millionaire friends.
and there's, and there's proverbs about who you choose,
Yeah.
and who you spend your time with, and so I think it's, throughout that year, I was praying for, men that would, it was like, when things get really tough, is there a group of men, that, when the north wind blows, so to speak, right? Are there going to be people there, but what it really taught me, and this is what I always go back to, is it's like, at the end of the day, no matter what anybody else is doing around you, right, you enjoy Jesus and you walk on. Mm-hmm. And then and it's taught me to sort of stop trying so much and just walk with Jesus, and then let the outflow of that sort of affect those around you.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so, still learning that, 100%.
Well, a lady
but-
told me one time, and it was one of the best things I ever heard, and it's changed the way we do a whole lot of things in our lives. She said, sometimes you're the only Bible that people will ever read.
I've heard you say that before.
And man, that hit me, and it stuck with me, and I it's why we send our kids to public schools. Mm-hmm. It's why we read, why I have a public job. Sometimes I'm at 9 houses in a day.
Yeah.
And I think about it all the time. And sometimes we're the only Bible that people will ever read. And I thought that was amazing. It was very encouraging and
So
scary.
Scary. Switching gears a little bit. So, shameless plug. What brought you to Springfield Baptist? Because this is for our church. One of the things I want to encourage our church, people are coming. So what brought you here? What have you felt like God has done here through you or in you, transform you because, and now that you're here? So.
I was going to because I was thinking about over here a while ago, I was like, you wear a lot of hats around here.
Yeah.
Like, I think, like, when I came here as a visitor in May, right, like, when I looked around, like, I knew he was pastor, I knew who his wife and kids were, because our kids hang out, and it's like, but you're all the time in and out of, like, doing something around here, right?
Yeah.
So, like, I think it would be good to talk about that a little bit. Talk about how you found SBC and sort of how you've grown into a role here, because I feel like you do wear a few different hats.
Well, COVID messed a lot of things up for a lot of people, and the previous church that we were at, there wasn't a whole lot. There was a lot for the kids, but my kids, their age group, they sat with us in service a lot, and or Wednesday night or Sunday night, and we were on the lookout for just trying to find something where the kids could learn and something for us. We had gone to a few different churches, and I told my wife, I was like, well, Springfield Baptist is just down the road. We'd be crazy to not try it. It's a half mile from the house.
Right.
And so we came here, and we never left. They roped us in pretty good. But no, we love the atmosphere. We love the families, the friends. We've grown pretty close to everybody here, and it's been great.
Preaching's tolerable.
Preaching's tolerable, yeah.
No.
We can suffer through that.
Me too.
But my kids, man, I caught them out on the front porch, and one day they were preaching to each other, and man, that really got my heart. They've grown a whole lot. They're sponges. They're 6 and 7 right now. I guess they were 4 and 5, 4 and 6 when we started coming here. 4 and 5.
Yeah, I think.
And
what was it? Was Lane? No, I don't know. Brady was it?
yeah,
Anyway,
but they're sponges.
Yeah.
What you do right now is going to set their foundation. And Springfield Baptist is man, they really knocked it out of the park with it. So they're still wild, but until we get the shot collars, they. But, I love to work on things.
Yeah.
It makes me happy to figure stuff out. I broke a lot of toys growing up trying to learn how to work on things.
Yeah.
I come here. That's what I like.
It's a 100-year-old building, so he's got a lot of things to work
Got a lot of
on.
stuff.
Yeah.
But you were talking about your kids and being sponges and whatnot, and going back to the pastoral joke, he's doing something. Aaron's doing something right in the sense that for sure, Silas is picking up a lot, and in the service,
Well, that's because he's up there standing with him.
That's true too. He does get up there a lot, but he is listening.
Yeah.
And it says something about the way the message is delivered. That it's something that I can use, something you can use in terms of what we're learning, but it's also digestible for 6, 7, 8-year-olds that are starting to pay attention to that stuff. And so if you stand up there and teach and preach in a way that is not understandable for making the profound simple, so to speak, and I think that's an important part of teaching, and so I do think that's important, though, that the messages are there in such a way that the kids can digest them.
And it's understandable by a broad spectrum of ages.
Yeah.
Good job.
Relate to
That's all I'm going to say. Good.
I relate to the Yeah, is there? I mean, we're pushing 40 minutes now. So like,
If you were to encourage someone,
yeah, like that's kind of where I wanted to go. Is like, is there anything that you would want to encourage anyone who may listen? Like, they're listening to Anthony Mikowski, and he's HVAC tech here in town, and got a couple kids in the school system. Life works in the school system, right? Like, it. What kind of words of encouragement would you give anybody that's listening today?
Well, stay persistent. I guess for the fellow Christians, keep diving in. Stay in the Word, and prayer life matters a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Prayer works. I promise. It's done amazing things. I mean, Anthony Mikulski believes in God because of prayer.
I said your last name. You just said his name. And
Mikulski.
I
think you said that.
I had a lot of people praying for me, and prayer works.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
What about the unbeliever that might be listening?
The unbeliever, quit being hard-headed.
Do your investigation.
Dive in.
And I'll say, we had our first conversation we had like a little men's night get-together thing, when I first started coming over here.
Mm-hmm.
And, one thing I saw in you from the first get-go was like, you're an encourager. Like, I feel like you went out of your way sometimes to, the first time you were at my house, you were, talking about the different ways and opportunities you have to minister or mention Jesus, like in the presence of people that you don't know. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And there's a certain level of confidence that you have in the gospel.
And that's,
And you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That it shows through stuff like that, and it's really encouraging to me. It was one of the first things I noticed was that you're very much unashamed of your faith and of talking about Jesus. Like you knew I was like-minded with you, but like, hearing you talk about some of the conversations and interactions you've had while out on job sites and stuff, is that's encouraging to me. And so I just always thought about it. That's the first thing I think of when I think of you.
Yeah, I think I really do. I think I have a great atmosphere to work in. I come across a lot of broken people, come across a lot of people, and I'm guilty of not always sharing the gospel, but I love to insert it as much as I can.
Yeah.
I think everybody that's worked with me or worked around me is, they've seen that side. And it's not always easy. It's not always easy. I mean, you get in the real world, and your emotions get the best of you. And I'm very guilty of letting my emotions get the best of me. But
I think sometimes that's where we get, like, I've done that before, and then what I had to realize though, like too, in some of that is like, it's how I respond coming back from that. Because I can just go ahead and dive off into that rabbit hole and be a total, whatever you want to call it, for the next month. Before I'm like, okay, I need to repent and like actually, actually start walking again. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's like,
I love how you said that, because it does take repentance.
yeah, but then like, that's sometimes where people go, how can you believe this and talk about it so unashamed here? But then like the other day, it's like, man, I mess up. Like, that's still part of me. I can still, just because I believe in Jesus doesn't mean that every action and word is going to be perfect every time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think to me, that makes people, especially Christians, the most real.
Yeah.
It's when they don't try to hide all of that, but they become a little more vulnerable. And it's like, it just shows how not perfect my actions are right now. And that my need for Jesus is still, in terms of walking with Him, is still part of my life.
Yeah.
Still great, and so I would hope that we're progressing and seeing, you talked about it the other day, I don't know if it was on camera or off, but, that we don't peak right now, that our peak is right before our deathbed. That's right when so we're hoping we're continuing to increase and to grow. And I would always want to encourage people, if you're not satisfied with where you are, that's okay, because you're hoping you're still growing. You want to still be growing. Now, we need to be content. There's a difference between satisfaction and contentment. We need to be content with, what the Lord is doing in our lives and where we are in our lives. But we should never be satisfied with our walk with Jesus. We always want more. We should always want Christ more. We should always want to see our growth more. We always want to share the gospel more. I mean, as a pastor, I'm not perfect at that at all. I fail on all kinds of levels of doing that. And I know people who are way better at that than I am. And I would encourage us to keep plugging away, keep repenting. The Christian life is a life of repentance. We should always, we invent new ways to sin, although nothing's new under the sun. In our own lives, we're constantly doing that. So we should always be looking to Christ. What's wrong? What do I need to repent of? And how can I push forward? And so, but thank you, Anthony, for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're excited.
Appreciate you, man.
Hopefully people, learn from this. Hopefully
I wasn't one bit nervous.
Yeah. So thank you all for joining us today. We hope that you enjoyed this, and we'll see you next time on our Next Steps podcast.